إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم كل وليك الحجة ابن الحسن صلواتك عليه وعلى آبائه في هذه الساعة وفي كل ساعة وليا وحافظا وقاعدا وناصرا وذليلا وعينا حتى تسكنه عرزك طوعا وتمتعه فيها طويلا.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
Respected brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Shaitan is declared as the number one enemy of the humans or any servants of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And so Allah in the Holy Quran, He says, Shaitan is an enemy to you, and so take him as an enemy. And sometimes we let this Shaitan come into our hearts and let him whisper whatever he wants to. And sometimes we act as his puppets without thinking. And one of the most amazing thing about the human is that he has intellect. Allah has given us intellect. If you compare us to the animal he has senses but no intellect. And that's how we are inferior to the animals. So you find that we have intellect, but we have an enemy, who as Allah has clearly said, he is your enemy. Shaitan is your enemy. And you find wherever you go is this Shaitan, he comes and he whispers, and we automatically become his puppets. He says something and we do exactly what he says. And so Imam Jafri Hadees has a very interesting saying that if Shaitan opens up 99 doors of goodness to you, it is only so that he may overcome you by opening the 100th. So meet him with the opposition, block his path and reject his charm. And one of the techniques you can use is that you're sitting here in a group. And I've said this earlier to my brothers, is that you're sitting in a group, and if you take a stick, it's easy to break compared to a group of sticks. True. So you find if Shaitan comes, for example, if Shaitan comes to one of the brothers and he's whispering to him that, listen, don't do this good act. He's walking towards the janamaz, he's going to pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on time. And Shaitan comes and whispers to him that, listen, don't do this. But he's not listening to him. Don't you think he's going to go to his friend and use him as a puppet to stand in his way? Isn't he going to come and stop you using your friend? So sometimes you have to stand as a group and defeat this Shaitan. Because this Shaitan he's clever. He's very smart. Therefore it's very important that he's the number one enemy that you have. No one else. No one else. And this Shaitan is what Imam Hussein defeated on the day of Karbala. Is where he neglected every whisper of his and gave off every single thing he had. Where he gave off his Qasim, he gave off his own two sons, Ali Asghar and Ali Akbar. He gave off his Abbas. And he gave himself. To protect what? To protect what we have today. This namaz, this Quran, this adhan. It was during this time that his sister, Bibi Zayn, we need to defeat him. Because our Imams did it, and we are their Shia, we're his followers. We claim to be his followers, but how many of us act as his followers? Salawat. It was during this time that the sisters and the daughters of Imam Hussein after they lost the men of the house, they're going around the bazaar. And the enemies, whenever they would cry, they would tell them to be quiet. Imagine, when you lose every single thing, the only thing you have is crying. Is you being able to cry, to express your emotion. Yet here we are, Bibi Zainab and Bibi Sakina, Bibi Kulthum, Bibi Fizza. After watching what happened to Imam Hussein, they're not even allowed to cry over their husband or their brother or their sons or their nephews. Imam Zainul Abidin, one time he saw in front of Imam Zainul Abidin, they wouldn't take an animal before killing him. And so Imam Zainul Abidin, he would start crying every single time. And so one time he saw a butcher and he was taking a goat, and he asked him, "Did you feed this goat water?" And he said, "Yes." And he said, "You gave this goat water, but my father on the day of Karbala, on the day of Ashura, 3 days thirsty, humans didn't give another human water before they killed him." He said, "When you kill him, are there other animals around him?" And he said, "No." And he said, "Well, then there was my auntie, Bibi Zainab, who was watching my uncle being slaughtered 70 yards away. After watching this, how can a woman not cry or not express her emotions? Yet here she was being told not to cry." So remember, whenever you do matam, remember the tragedy of Karbala. When you raise your arms, remember Hazrat Abbas. And when you hit it on the chest, remember Hazrat Ali Akbar. And when you stand on your feet, remember Hazrat Qasim. And remember Imam Hussein when his body was being trampled by these horses. Matam Hussein.